found my dad on a dating app. I wish I could say it was some kind of mistake. Like maybe someone stole his photos, or it was an old account he forgot to delete. Something simple, something I could explain away and move on from. But it wasn't any of those things. It was him, his name, his face, his smile. The same smile he gives my mom every single morning like clockwork, like he invented the word devoted. And the worst part, his bio said, recently divorced, looking for something real. I just stared at my phone for what felt like forever. The words didn't make sense at first. My brain kept trying to rearrange them into something that wasn't what they were. Because divorced? My parents have been married for 27 years. 27. They still eat dinner together every single night. My mom still folds his clothes. He still calls her my love in front of all of us, like he's auditioning for the role of perfect husband and winning every time. So I told myself maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was someone who just looked like him. A coincidence. A look-alike. It happens, right? People have twins in this world, so I kept scrolling, looking for something that would let me off the hook. And then I found it. Except it didn't let me off the hook, it did the opposite. I saw a picture I had taken, a photo from last Christmas. He was wearing the sweater I bought him, the burgundy one with the small pattern across the chest, the one my mom held up and said, "Oh, he's going to love this," when I showed her before wrapping it. The one she said made him look handsome as always when he opened it Christmas morning. That photo, my photo on his dating profile, that's when my stomach dropped completely. Because there was no way. There was absolutely no way this wasn't him. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there in the dark, phone in my hand, refreshing the app over and over like some part of me believed that if I checked enough times, the profile would be gone, like the universe would correct itself and give me back the version of my life where my dad was just my dad. But it didn't disappear. Instead, it got worse, because I saw that he had been active, recently active, like within the hour, while my mom was right downstairs watching television while she was probably laughing at something on screen, completely at peace, completely trusting, completely unaware. I put my phone face down on the mattress and stared at the ceiling until it was light outside. The next morning, I came downstairs and he was already at the table, coffee in hand, newspaper open, like any other morning, like every other morning. And I just stood in the doorway watching him for a second before he noticed me. He looked so ordinary, so completely, painfully ordinary. "Morning," he said, just like that, casual, easy, like a man with nothing to hide. And I almost broke right there in the doorway, because he sounded so normal, so exactly like himself. And I didn't know what to do with that. I wanted to tell my mom that same day. I genuinely did. I kept imagining walking up to her, sitting her down, showing her the screen. But every time I got close to doing it in my head, something stopped me. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was the look on her face I kept picturing, that moment where everything she knows shifts and nothing goes back. Maybe I just wasn't ready to be the one who caused that. Because once I said it out loud, there was no taking it back. No version of the world after that where she doesn't know. And even if knowing is better than not knowing, I still had to be the one to do it. And I wasn't ready. So instead, I did something I'm not proud of. I made a fake account. I don't fully understand why even now. Part of me wanted proof, something concrete I could point to. Part of me wanted to understand how far this had gone, what he was actually doing, who he thought he was when we weren't around. And part of me, the part I hate to admit, wanted to see how far he would go, whether he'd stop himself, whether something would make him turn back. So I put together a profile, a fake name, a fake photo, just enough to be real looking, and I found him, and I swiped. He matched back almost instantly. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone steady. I kept putting it down and picking it back up. And then before I even had time to figure out what I was going to say, he messaged first. "Hey," just that one word. And I sat with it for a long time because it was such a normal word, such a small, casual, nothing word. And here it was, this little grenade sitting in my inbox. He had no idea he was talking to me. He had no idea that the person on the other side of that screen was someone who had been sitting across from him at the dinner table her entire life. He was just out here saying hey to strangers while my mom folded his laundry. I typed back, "Hi." And he replied right away. "Beautiful smile. What brings you here?" I felt sick. Not the kind of sick that passes, the kind that sits in your chest and makes everything feel heavy. I wanted to throw the phone. I wanted to scream. I wanted to do a lot of things. But I didn't do any of them. I kept going. I kept the conversation alive because I needed to understand, or at least that's what I kept telling myself. We talked for hours that first night, and every single message felt like something tearing. He told me he was lonely. He said his marriage had ended a long time ago, like it wasn't even a real thing anymore. Like it was just a formality he was waiting to dissolve. He said he was just looking for someone who actually understood him. I almost laughed out loud at that, because my mom understands him better than anyone on this earth. She has spent 27 years learning him, adjusting to him, loving him through every version of himself he's ever been. She gave up her career to raise us. She stayed through the hard years, the lean years, the years he wasn't easy to love. She built her entire life inside of their life together. And he was out here telling a stranger his wife didn't understand him, talking about her like she was already in the past tense. At one point, he asked me what I was looking for, and I didn't plan what I typed next. It just came out. Honesty. He went quiet after that, longer than he'd paused at any other point in the conversation. And for just a moment, I thought maybe that word had landed somewhere real. Maybe something in him recognized it. But then he replied, "Yeah, me too." And that was the moment something in me broke, because he didn't mean it. He wasn't being honest. He wasn't looking for honesty. He was sitting somewhere in our house, messaging a stranger, while my mother existed 30 feet away. He didn't mean a single word of it. Over the next few days, I couldn't stop. Every night I'd open the app, every night we'd talk, and I started watching him differently during the day. I noticed when he stepped outside to take a call. I noticed when his phone lit up at dinner, and he'd glance at it with a small private smile. I noticed when my mom would look over and ask what was funny, and he'd say nothing, just nothing, and go back to his food like it was the most natural thing in the world. Nothing. That was always his answer. Nothing. And then one night he asked if we could meet. I just stared at that message for a long time, because everything up until that point had felt like it existed in some separate dimension, behind a screen, contained. But this was different. This was him asking to physically be somewhere in the real world with someone he thought was a stranger. This was no longer theoretical. I didn't respond right away, and he followed up with, "Only if you're comfortable." Comfortable. I don't know why that word hit so hard, but it did. Something about the careful gentleness of it. Like he was a considerate person, like he was thoughtful, like he was someone worth meeting. I should have stopped there. I know that. I should have blocked him, deleted the account, walked downstairs, and told my mom everything. But I didn't. I said yes, because I needed to see it. I needed it to be real in a way that couldn't be explained away or doubted or softened. I needed the full, undeniable, unavoidable truth standing in front of me. We agreed to meet at a small cafe across town, somewhere neither of my parents had ever gone. I drove there thinking I might turn around the whole way, my hands on the wheel, my brain cycling through every reason to go back, but I didn't turn around. When I got there, I picked the corner table, the one where I could see the door. I sat with my coffee getting cold in front of me, and I waited. And while I waited, I thought about all the versions of the next few minutes, what I'd say, what he'd say, how it would feel, and then the door opened and he walked in. I'll never forget that, the way he looked exactly the same. Same jacket he wears on weekends, same posture, that easy, confident walk I've watched my whole life. Same face, my dad's face. He stood just inside the door and looked around the room, scanning for the girl he thought he was meeting. And I watched him do it. I watched him look for her. And something about that, watching him search for someone who didn't exist, watching him be completely comfortable standing in that cafe like this was just a normal Tuesday. It undid something in me. I stood up before I'd made any decision to. He saw movement and turned, and for just a half second he smiled. That automatic, warm, familiar smile, the one I grew up with. And then his face changed. Recognition moved through him like a current, and everything went still. I'd never seen him look like that. Not once in my entire life. Not afraid. My dad had never looked afraid of anything, but he was afraid right then. "Dad?" My voice barely came out. It was barely even a word. He didn't move. He just stood there like the floor had opened under him. "What are you doing here?" he asked, and his voice wasn't angry. It wasn't even shocked in the way you'd expect. It was scared, quiet and scared. I laughed. It came out wrong, too sharp, not mine. "I think I should be asking you that." People nearby were starting to notice. I could feel it, but I didn't care anymore. I was done caring about how things looked. He ran a hand through his hair and glanced around. "I can explain," he said. Of course he could. Of course there was an explanation ready. "Explain what, exactly?" I said. "That you're divorced? That your marriage ended a long time ago? That you're just lonely and looking for someone real? Because I know all of that already. You told me." He flinched. Not a small flinch. A real one. Like the words had actually hit him. "Keep your voice down," he whispered. And that made me angrier than anything else he could have said. Because even in that moment, even standing there caught, even looking at his own daughter across a cafe table he had no business being in, his first instinct was still to manage how it appeared. Still to protect the surface. "Does Mom know?" I asked. He said nothing. I let the silence sit there. I didn't fill it. I didn't soften it. I just let it be what it was. "Do you have any idea," I said, and my voice broke slightly on it, and I hated that it did, "what you're doing to her? She has no idea. She's at home right now, cooking probably, or folding your clothes, or watching TV and waiting for you to come back. She has absolutely no idea." He looked at me then, like he was actually seeing me. maybe for the first time since he walked in. And I saw something move through his face. Guilt, real guilt, the kind that can't be performed. And then he said it. "I never meant for you to find out like this." That was it. That was what he led with. Not, "I'm sorry," not, "I've been lying," not, "I've been hurting your mother." The thing he led with was that he hadn't meant for me to find out, like the problem was my discovery. Like if I hadn't found the profile, hadn't made the account, hadn't shown up to this cafe, everything would have been fine. Everything would have continued on just the way it was. And maybe that's exactly what he believed. "Then how did you mean for it to happen?" I asked. He had nothing, just silence. And then after a long moment, he said, "I was going to end it." I shook my head slowly. "Yeah? Before or after meeting me today?" He didn't answer. And we stood there in that cafe for another long stretch of silence, and I looked at him and tried to find something. Some version of the man I thought he was. Some crack of explanation that would make this make sense. But there was nothing there that helped. There was just him, and the truth, and the growing distance between who I thought he was and who he actually was. I picked up my bag. I didn't say goodbye. I just walked out. When I got home, my mom was in the kitchen. She had music on low, the kind she plays when she's in a good mood. She was moving around the stove like she had nowhere else to be and nothing to worry about. She turned when she heard me come in and smiled. "Hey, you're back early." I stood in the kitchen doorway and looked at her, really looked at her, the way she moves, the sound she makes, the complete ease of her in that space. A woman who trusts her life, a woman who has no reason not to. She has no idea. That night we all had dinner together. My dad came in late. He sat down and kept his eyes mostly on his plate. My mom talked about her day. Some story about a neighbor, something she'd seen on a show she was watching. Normal sounds, normal rhythms, normal everything. And I sat in the middle of it all and felt like I was watching it through glass. I was the only one at that table who knew the full shape of what was happening. And the weight of that, the particular loneliness of it, was something I hadn't expected. I didn't sleep again that night. It's been 3 weeks now. 3 weeks of mornings where he drinks his coffee and reads the news. 3 weeks of watching my mom kiss him goodbye like she always has. 3 weeks of dinners and evenings and ordinary days, all of them sitting on top of this thing I'm carrying alone. Sometimes I catch him looking at me, not the way he used to, different now, careful, like he's trying to read what I've decided, like he's waiting, and I think he is waiting to find out what I'll do with what I know. And honestly, I still don't know. Because if I tell her I am the one who breaks her world open, even though I didn't create the thing that breaks it, I am still the one who delivers it. And she will never unknow it after that. And neither will I. But if I stay quiet, if I keep sitting at that table and watching and saying nothing, then I become something I don't want to be. I become part of it. Not the lie itself, but the silence around it. And that silence has weight. I feel it getting heavier every day. There's no version of this where everyone is okay. There's no door I can open that leads somewhere clean. I found my dad on a dating app. And whatever I do next, whatever I choose, whatever happens after this, I know one thing for certain. I lost something that day that I'm never going to get back.